Father of our fathers, help me lead my men well. Do not let me dishonor my legion. Please help me regain my family's honor.
Coming from documentary world, I always think that reality is always more unusual, more strange, more interesting than the imagination, because our imaginations are really based on the experiences we've had and what we've seen before, whereas, you know, reality, you go back and you look at the textbooks and you realize that, you know, people did some pretty strange things.
Kevin is really the, you know, the reason why I came to the film, and I was beating on his door, you know, to try to get this part, for sure.
For me, you know, especially with great co-stars and Kevin McDonald at the front of this, it just seemed like a great opportunity.
The idea for me was to have two very, very different types of people, both physically, and of course Jamie and Channing are absolute opposites, and when I was casting them, I talked to them about other actors they liked, and it turned out they had met a few times before and they'd got on, and actually they turned up in Scotland. It was a very, very tough shoot, you know, very physically demanding, and I think the only reason they survived was because they had each other. They had this friendship. They could be, it was them against the world in a way.
You always knew that place existed, didn't you? We've wasted weeks searching. And all this time you could have told me. Your tribe was there, and they butchered my father's men like dogs.
Your father came to kill. He came to punish us because we would not bow to the name of wrong. Yes, I'd heard of this place. To me and to all my people, it is the place of heroes.
One of the things that we could do very differently in this film, that we wanted to do differently than the kind of big Hollywood Roman extravaganzas, we could be authentic and we could be realistic and really do our research into, you know, what did people wear in Roman Britain, how did they look, what did they eat.
He really brought a sense of reality to the aesthetic of the film. I think with Roman films sometimes they can feel a little forced. You feel the sets and you feel the clothes, and you know. But with this, he very much wanted to set it in reality. He wanted it to have a very visceral feeling.
He wanted to shoot it more in a little bit more of a modern way. He wanted the Romans to be American. I mean, he definitely made a lot of very, very clear and strong choices that I at first was very scared of, you know. But he just has so much control and so much confidence, you know, as a filmmaker, that it helps you.
He may not be from north of the wall, but he's a Briton, and he will slit your throat the minute you're alone.
He wouldn't do that.
How do you know?
He gave me his word.
His word? He's a slave. He says what he says and he does what he does because he has to.
We wanted to move away from the kind of current preoccupation in films like, you know, Prince of Persia or Clash of the Titans, which are kind of classical era films but just full of fantasy, and show people a different kind of classical film, one that's really rooted in reality. And you know, we didn't use handheld cameras a lot of the time. We couldn't, when we were in Scotland, use track and Steadicam and those sort of the modern techniques, because actually the weather was too bad, the wind was too much wind, the ground was too uneven a lot of the time.
You know, when we crossed the frontier into the unknown world, we really did go to some of the most remote parts of the Highlands of Scotland to film in, and you know, I appreciate that, because when you, as a character, you're bringing as much realism to it as you possibly can. You want the world in which you inhabit to feel the same way, and Kevin was great. He really let that physical landscape inform a lot of the performances.
The emotional story is really about how these two guys are going to become friends, and they're going to actually bond and realize that the cultural differences between them are as naught, and that actually they like each other.
I think it can be a very, very, very intense kind of exploration of two people from entirely different sides of the world, essentially, and if anything, they hate each other. You know, it's like taking an American or a British soldier and coupling them with an Al-Qaeda soldier, and you know, if they don't kill each other and they have to go through something, you know, to survive together, hopefully they'll learn something from each other.